William did not explode because Tom Parker Bowles had arrived at Sandringham. He exploded because nobody could explain who had allowed him inside. The gates had been closed. The official guest list had been approved 2 days earlier. Security teams had received clear instructions. Only senior members of the royal family, selected household staff, and a small number of authorized private guests were expected on the estate that evening. Tom's name was not on the list. Yet shortly after dusk, Prince William reportedly entered a private corridor near the main drawing room and found Queen Camilla's son speaking quietly with a senior palace aide. Tom was holding a folder. The aide looked frightened. And the moment William appeared, the conversation stopped. William did not greet him. He did not ask whether he had enjoyed the journey. He looked first at the folder, then at the locked door behind them, and asked one question. "How did you get in?" Tom reportedly answered that his mother had invited him. William turned toward the aide. The aide said no written authorization had been received. That was when William's expression changed, because this was not a family lunch. It was not Christmas morning. It was not a casual visit arranged through Queen Camilla's private office. Sandringham was being used for a restricted royal meeting involving Charles, William, Anne, Edward, Sophie, and senior members of the household. The discussion concerned future royal residences, private family access, and the gradual transfer of responsibilities between the current reign and the next. Tom had arrived inside the one meeting where his presence created the greatest possible conflict. And the folder in his hand appeared to contain information connected to it. Within minutes, security officers were called. Doors were closed. Queen Camilla arrived furious that her son was being questioned. Charles demanded an explanation. Princess Anne asked to see the folder, and William, according to the fictional royal account at the center of this story, made one thing painfully clear. No one walks into Sandringham because they believe the Queen's name is enough. That sentence transformed an uncomfortable family visit into a full palace crisis. Because Tom Parker Bowles was not accused of breaking into Sandringham through a window or forcing his way past armed protection. The problem was subtler, more dangerous. Someone inside the royal structure had treated his connection to Camilla as permission. A guard had been told he was expected. A member of staff had been instructed to escort him. A private room had been made available, and a folder connected to a sensitive palace discussion had somehow reached his hands. Nobody wanted to say the obvious. This could not happen through one harmless misunderstanding. Several people had to assume Tom belonged there. Before we examine why Tom came to Sandringham, what was allegedly inside the folder, and the private instruction William issued after confronting Camilla, subscribe to the channel. We follow the royal stories hidden beneath formal appearances, and explain why one unexpected guest can expose a much larger struggle over trust, family access, and the future of the monarchy. The tension began weeks earlier. King Charles had ordered a review of private access across several royal residences. The review followed a growing number of incidents involving relatives, friends, and unofficial advisors being treated as though personal connection created permanent palace privileges. Some people had been added to guest lists after security deadlines. Others had received accommodation through informal requests. A few had used household staff to arrange access without written approval. No major security breach had occurred. That was almost the problem. Because nothing disastrous had happened, the palace had allowed the pattern to continue. Princess Anne considered that irresponsible. William considered it a future crisis waiting for the wrong person. Charles considered it a family issue that needed careful handling. Camilla considered it a review aimed directly at her side of the family. The Parker Bowles name appeared repeatedly. Tom and his sister had attended private family occasions for years. They were the Queen's children. Charles treated them warmly. They had never claimed to be working royals. They had no constitutional position. But as Camilla's place inside the monarchy grew, the distinction between her private family and royal space became harder for staff to manage. A request from an ordinary guest could be declined. A request connected to the Queen felt different. Staff did not want to offend her. They did not want to create another story about Camilla's family being rejected. So they became accommodating. One exception became two. A visit required no concern because the person was known. A name was added because the Queen's office had called. A room was made available because refusing felt unnecessarily cold. Most arrangements remained harmless. Over time, the absence of resistance created an assumption. Camilla's immediate family could enter royal spaces when invited privately, even when the formal process had not been completed. William wanted that assumption ended. He was not demanding that Charles separate Camilla from her children. He accepted that Tom and his sister would remain part of private family life. His concern involved institutional access. Who knew where they were? Who approved their presence? What information could they encounter? Which meetings could they approach? Which staff believed they had to obey them? The Sandringham meeting had been organized to settle those exact questions. Charles chose the estate because he wanted the discussion away from the constant movement of Buckingham Palace and Windsor. The guest list remained small. Charles and Camilla, William and Catherine, Anne, Edward and Sophie. The Lord Chamberlain, senior security officials, a small number of trusted aides. The main agenda involved 3 issues. First, which relatives could stay at royal residences without formal event invitations. Second, how private access would change after William became king. Third, whether separate household offices could continue authorizing guests independently. Camilla disliked the third question most. Her office had always managed personal visitors around her private schedule. She believed requiring William's future approval for her relatives would humiliate her. William argued that nobody was suggesting she ask permission to see her children. The issue was whether her household could place private guests inside residences used for sensitive royal business. Camilla said those residences were also family homes. William replied that they stopped being ordinary family homes whenever constitutional work entered the room. Charles attempted to find a compromise. Camilla's children could visit privately. Written notice would still be required. Security would retain final approval. Restricted meetings would remain closed unless Charles personally invited them. William wanted one additional condition. No private family visitor could receive official papers, schedules, or internal discussion material unless their role required it. Camilla considered the condition insulting. Her children were discreet. William said the rule was not about whether he personally trusted Tom. It was about whether the system could be defended consistently. If the rule existed for Catherine's relatives, it had to exist for Camilla's. If it applied to Anne's children, it applied to everyone else. The meeting was scheduled for Friday evening. Then Tom contacted his mother. In this imagined palace story, Tom had learned that part of the discussion concerned future access for Camilla's family. He believed decisions were being made about him without allowing him to explain his position. From his perspective, he had never demanded royal status. He had lived under unwanted attention because of his mother's marriage. He had attended occasions because Charles and Camilla invited him. He had never asked the public to treat him as a prince. Yet now William was reportedly preparing rules that made him sound like a security problem. Tom wanted to speak directly. Camilla agreed that he deserved to be heard. She did not tell William. That was the first mistake. She reportedly told a trusted aide that Tom would arrive after the formal dinner, but before the family session ended. He would not attend the full meeting. He would speak privately with Charles. The aide believed the Queen's instruction was enough. That was the second mistake. Security received a message stating that a personal guest of Her Majesty would arrive during the evening. The name was provided late. The officer reviewing the request noticed that the main guest list had already closed. He contacted a member of Camilla's household. The response said the visitor had been cleared at the highest level. That phrase was misleading. Charles had not approved the visit. Camilla had. But the highest level sounded like the king. The officer allowed the entry. That was the third mistake. Tom arrived through a private gate. He was met by a household aide rather than the family. Camilla was still inside the main discussion. The aide escorted him into a waiting room. He should have remained there. Instead, someone informed him that the meeting had moved into a restricted section of the house. Tom said he needed to give Charles a short statement before any decision was made. The aide hesitated. Then he led Tom toward the private corridor. That was the fourth mistake. The folder complicating everything had been prepared by Tom himself. It reportedly contained a written explanation of his family's position, a list of occasions he had attended, and correspondence suggesting that most of his visits had occurred through direct invitations from Charles or Camilla. Tom wanted to demonstrate that he had not forced access. The palace had repeatedly offered it, but mixed among those papers was a copied draft of the new guest access protocol. Tom should not have had it. The draft had not been approved. Only meeting participants and selected officials had received copies. How it reached Tom became the central question of the night. Tom claimed it had been given to him by someone concerned the new rules were unfairly targeting Camilla's family. He refused to identify the person immediately. William found him before he reached Charles. The Prince of Wales had stepped away from the main room after a heated exchange involving future accommodation rights. He entered the corridor and saw Tom beside the aide. At first, William appeared confused. Then he noticed the document beneath Tom's hand. The pages carried the palace's internal classification marks. William recognized them. He walked closer and asked again, "How did you get in?" Tom said Camilla had invited him. William asked whether Charles knew. Tom said he assumed so. William said assumptions did not open protected gates. Tom responded that Sandringham was also his mother's home. William answered, "It is the king's estate. Your mother's invitation does not change the security list." The aide attempted to explain. William told him to remain silent until security arrived. Tom became angry. He said William was treating him like an intruder despite years of family invitations. William pointed toward the copied protocol. Family guests do not arrive carrying restricted papers. Tom said the document concerned him. William answered that concern did not create authorization. The exchange grew loud enough for a nearby staff member to alert Anne. She arrived before Charles and Camilla. Anne took in the scene immediately. Tom. The aide. The folder. William's anger. She asked Tom to hand over the papers. He refused at first. Anne did not argue. She looked toward the security officer and instructed him to secure the document. Tom gave it to her. Anne opened the folder. She recognized the draft. Then she asked the question that made the situation far worse. "Who gave you this?" Tom said he had promised confidentiality. Anne replied that confidentiality did not apply to leaked royal papers. Tom insisted the document contained no state secrets. Anne said that was irrelevant. It contained private security procedures and future access rules. Someone inside the household had removed it from authorized circulation. Camilla arrived moments later. She saw her son surrounded by security and immediately demanded that everyone step back. William said Tom was carrying a copied internal document. Camilla turned toward him. Tom explained that he had come only to defend the family before permanent decisions were made. Camilla said he should never have been given the draft. William focused on a different part of her sentence. Given? Camilla realized the implication. She said she did not know who had supplied it. William asked whether she had invited Tom. She admitted she had. Charles entered before the argument went further. He looked tired rather than furious. That changed when Anne placed the draft in front of him. Charles asked Tom whether he understood what he was holding. Tom said it was a proposal affecting his family. Charles answered that it was an internal royal document not authorized for him. Tom said he had not stolen it. William replied that somebody had. Camilla protested. The word stolen made the incident sound criminal. Anne corrected the language. The document had been copied and transferred without approval. That was fact enough. Charles asked who had invited Tom. Camilla said she had. The king asked why he had not been informed. She said Tom deserved the chance to explain himself. Charles agreed that he deserved a conversation. He did not agree that the conversation should occur secretly during the restricted meeting. Camilla said she feared William would refuse. William answered that he would have refused because the entire purpose of the meeting was to stop private relatives entering royal decisions through personal pressure. Bringing Tom inside proved the need for the rule. That accusation pushed Camilla over the edge. She said William had already decided her family did not belong. William responded that Tom's behavior had nothing to do with belonging. He had entered without full approval, approached a restricted meeting, and carried an internal document. Any one of those events required explanation. Together, they required action. Tom said he was tired of being discussed like a problem, while everyone ignored years of loyalty. He had supported his mother through public hostility. He had respected Charles. He had avoided presenting himself as royal. He had never used the monarchy to seek political or constitutional influence. Now William wanted to treat ordinary family contact as a privilege that could disappear with one signature. William did not dismiss the emotion. He dismissed the argument. The question was not whether Tom had been loyal. The question was whether loyalty entitled him to bypass procedure. Tom said no. William asked why he had come. Tom answered honestly. Because he believed the decision had already been made against him. There it was. Fear. Not a plan to seize power. Not an attempt to enter the line of succession. Fear that once William became king, Camilla's children would be pushed beyond the palace walls. Camilla heard it. Charles heard it. Even William's expression changed briefly. The anger remained. The family wound beneath it became visible. Tom's future access depended heavily on Charles. Charles considered him family. William considered him part of his father's private world, not the future monarchy's official structure. When Charles was no longer king, every invitation could change. Tom wanted protection against that uncertainty. William believed the request itself proved why permanent privilege could not be granted. A future sovereign could not inherit uncontrolled access simply because the previous king had been affectionate. Charles ordered the meeting moved to a secure room. Tom remained. Catherine joined after being briefed. Edward and Sophie returned. The senior security officer presented the known facts. Tom's name had not appeared on the original list. A late request came through Camilla's office. The wording suggested royal approval beyond what had actually been given. A gate officer accepted the request. Tom entered legally through a secured gate. He did not force entry. He was escorted inside. He did not enter the main meeting room. He did approach a restricted corridor. He carried an unauthorized copy of an internal draft. The source remained unknown. No physical threat had occurred. The incident remained serious. Charles asked whether Tom had been searched on arrival. The officer said standard private guest procedures had been followed. Because the request appeared to carry senior approval, the folder was not treated as suspicious. William became furious again. The palace had allowed the appearance of authority to weaken security. A late message from Camilla's office had overridden the closed list. No one confirmed with Charles. No one confirmed with William. No one asked why Tom was arriving during a restricted discussion concerning his own access. William said the system had behaved as though Camilla's family could approve itself. Camilla considered that unfair. Her office had acted on her instruction. William replied that this was exactly the problem. The Queen's personal instruction had been treated as if it automatically overruled formal procedure. Charles did not defend her. He asked Anne for her recommendation. Anne proposed 3 immediate actions. First, Tom would leave Sandringham that evening, not as punishment, because his continued presence would compromise the meeting. Second, all guest approvals issued through separate households would be suspended until the new protocol was completed. Third, an investigation would identify who supplied the document. Camilla objected to Tom being removed. Catherine intervened gently. The evening could not continue normally while the source of the leak remained unknown. Tom's departure did not mean the family rejected him. It meant the security question had to be separated from the emotional one. Tom looked toward Catherine. He asked whether she would accept being removed if the palace discussed new restrictions on her family without allowing them to speak. Catherine answered that her relatives would not be entitled to attend such a meeting either. They could submit their views. They could be consulted. They could not enter automatically. The consistency mattered. Tom had no answer. Charles approved Anne's recommendations. Tom was escorted out. Camilla did not say goodbye in front of the others. She followed him into a private entrance hall. Their conversation remained unheard. When she returned, her face revealed that she had been crying. William's anger cooled. The crisis did not. The family meeting resumed. The empty chair where Tom had briefly sat became a silent reminder of the question beneath every rule. Where did private family end and monarchy begin? Charles opened the discussion. He admitted that the palace had failed by allowing informal habits to replace clear procedure. Camilla's children had been welcomed generously. Staff had begun interpreting generosity as standing permission. Charles took responsibility. He had wanted Camilla to feel that her family belonged. He had not defined what belonging meant inside a royal residence. William said the new rule had to begin there. Private belonging could not become institutional entitlement. Camilla asked what would happen after Charles's reign. Would Tom and his sister lose every connection to Sandringham and Windsor? William did not answer with the cruelty she feared. He said private relationships would remain private. He would not promise permanent residence access, official transport, central ceremonial seating, or unrestricted entry. Future invitations would depend on the event and the family relationship at the time. Camilla said that was not security. William answered, no private relative should have permanent royal security in the form of guaranteed access. The phrase sounded harsh. Anne supported it. Edward agreed. Sophie suggested a family visitor category. Recognized private relatives could receive simplified approval without gaining automatic access. That offered a practical compromise. Tom and his sister would not be treated like unknown outsiders every time they visited. Their identities and relationship to the family would remain recognized, but every visit still required authorization. Security could refuse. Restricted meetings remained closed. No copied papers. No informal overrides. Camilla accepted the category reluctantly. Catherine asked that the same rule apply to her own parents and siblings. William agreed. Anne added her children and grandchildren. Edward and Sophie included their extended families. Charles included his private friends. No single household would receive an exception. The protocol would protect everyone by treating everyone consistently. Then the discussion returned to the leaked document. Who had supplied it? Tom later provided a name. In this fictional account, the source was a long-serving household employee connected to Camilla's private office. The person believed the protocol had been designed without understanding how deeply Camilla's family depended on private royal access. They copied the draft so Tom could prepare a response. The employee did not sell the document. No journalist received it. No foreign interest became involved. The motive was loyalty. That did not excuse the action. Charles ordered the employee suspended pending full review. Camilla asked for compassion. Anne said compassion could affect the eventual consequence. It could not erase the breach. William wanted dismissal. Charles delayed the final decision until the investigation concluded. The employee had served faithfully for years. One emotional act had damaged trust. The family again faced the same question. When does loyalty become permission to break rules? The answer had to be never. Otherwise, every breach could be defended through affection. The investigation confirmed that only one copy had been made. Tom had not duplicated it. No electronic version had been shared. The immediate security risk remained limited. Charles reduced the final punishment from dismissal to removal from sensitive duties and eventual retirement. William considered the decision too soft. Anne accepted it because the person would never again handle protected material. Camilla was relieved. The palace avoided public humiliation. The leak still changed everything. The final Sandringham access protocol was completed within days. It contained strict rules. All visitors required written approval. No household could describe a guest as cleared without naming the approving authority. The Queen's office could request access. It could not certify security approval. The Wales household faced the same limit. Private relatives could not attend restricted royal discussions unless specifically invited by the king or authorized chair. Documents could not be shared with people affected by a review until formal consultation began. Recognized family visitors would receive dignified treatment, not automatic permission. No late addition could bypass the closed list because of a title, friendship, or verbal instruction. The king signed. William signed his acknowledgement. Camilla added hers after requesting one line. The protocol should not be used to prevent reasonable private contact between senior royals and their families. Anne agreed, provided reasonable never became automatic. The clause remained. Tom later received a formal letter. It confirmed he was not permanently banned from Sandringham. His recognized family status remained. Future visits required written invitation. He could not attend restricted meetings. He could not receive internal documents. The incident would remain on the security record. Trust could be rebuilt through time and discipline, not through another argument. Tom reportedly considered the letter cold. Camilla considered it better than exclusion. William considered it more generous than the circumstances required. Charles considered it balanced. That difference of opinion revealed the deeper divide. Charles thought like a father and husband trying to preserve relationships. William thought like a future king trying to preserve rules. Camilla thought like a mother afraid the next reign would erase her family. Anne thought like the guardian of an institution that could not survive if every emotional request became an exception. Catherine thought like the person standing between them, searching for a structure strong enough to protect both the monarchy and the humans trapped inside it. The public saw none of this. A photograph from Sandringham later showed Charles and Camilla leaving a church service. William and Catherine appeared several steps behind. Anne walked alone. Nothing looked unusual. That is the strange power of royal life. A family can confront a major internal crisis on Friday and appear perfectly composed by Sunday. The public image survives. The private trust changes. William's relationship with Tom became colder. They had never been especially close. After Sandringham, every interaction carried the memory of the corridor. Tom believed William had treated him as guilty before hearing his explanation. William believed Tom had forced the palace to confront a weakness by taking advantage of it. Both interpretations contained part of the truth. Tom had not broken through a gate. He entered because the system trusted Camilla's name. He did not steal the document personally. He accepted a copy he knew had not been officially provided. He wanted a voice. He used a method that undermined the very trust he hoped to protect. Camilla's relationship with William suffered too. She believed his anger had exceeded the threat. William believed her secret invitation had created the crisis. For weeks, their conversations remained formal. Charles attempted to repair the relationship. Anne advised him not to force warmth. The protocol provided enough stability. Emotion could take longer. Catherine eventually spoke with Camilla privately. She did not defend William's temper. She defended the rule. Camilla admitted that inviting Tom secretly had been a mistake. She still believed nobody would have listened if she had asked openly. Catherine said that fear was understandable. Acting through fear had made the result worse. Had Tom submitted a written statement, the family could have discussed it. By arriving unexpectedly, he allowed the entire question to become about security rather than belonging. Camilla said William wanted it to be about security. Catherine answered that the folder ensured it would be. Camilla knew she was right. The two women agreed on one practical step. Future concerns from Camilla's children would be submitted through a named family liaison. They would not need to rely on secret messages or unofficial staff. William's office would receive the concerns. Charles's household would receive them. Anne could review disputes. No one could claim they had been denied a voice without using the available process. That solution did not guarantee agreement. It removed the excuse for another surprise visit. Anne's reaction after the crisis remained characteristically direct. She told William that his anger had been justified. His manner had not always been useful. A future king could not allow fury to become the only language people remembered. William asked whether she would have reacted calmly if she found someone holding a leaked security document inside a restricted corridor. Anne said calm did not mean weak. It meant ensuring the other person could not later distract from the issue by focusing on the explosion. William absorbed the warning. His anger had dominated the first hours of the story. The protocol, not the anger, created the solution. That lesson mattered for his future reign. People would challenge boundaries. Some would do so deliberately, others through fear, habit, or poor advice. The king's responsibility would be to protect the line without making every offender an enemy. Charles reportedly gave William similar advice. He said Tom had made a serious error. He remained part of the extended family. William could enforce restrictions without turning the rest of their lives into punishment. William did not promise closeness. He promised consistency. For Charles, that was enough. The Sandringham incident became a private warning across every royal household. Catherine's relatives understood that invitations required approval. Anne's family followed the same process. Edward and Sophie briefed their children. Camilla's office stopped using verbal clearance language. Staff gained permission to question late requests regardless of who made them. Security officers no longer treated "the Queen wants this" or "the Prince expects this" as complete authorization. They verified. The palace became stricter. It also became safer. That was the lasting consequence. Not Tom's embarrassment, not William's anger. A system that had depended on social confidence was forced to become clear. The title says William exploded after Tom Parker Bowles was found inside Sandringham. He did. But the deeper shock was not that Tom stood in the corridor. It was that the palace had created a path allowing him to reach it. The gate opened because staff believed connection was authority. The escort continued because nobody wanted to offend the Queen. The folder traveled because an employee confused loyalty with permission. Tom arrived because he feared decisions were being made without him. Camilla invited him because she feared her family's place would disappear. William reacted because he feared the future monarchy would inherit privileges no one could control. Every person acted from a different fear. The protocol succeeded by refusing to build rules around any of them. Tom remained Camilla's son. He did not become royal. Camilla remained queen. Her office did not become a security authority. William remained heir. His anger did not give him the right to humiliate private family members. Charles remained king. His affection did not allow him to ignore the breach. Anne remained the person willing to state what everyone else wanted softened. And Catherine remained the bridge, reminding them that discipline without humanity creates resentment, while humanity without discipline creates chaos. Sandringham returned to normal. The corridor emptied. The copied document was destroyed. The employee left sensitive service. The visitor lists changed. The family resumed public duties. Yet the next time a private relative approached a royal gate, the officer did not ask only one question. Who are they connected to? The officer asked the question William had demanded from the beginning. Who approved them? That was the boundary established after the night Tom Parker Bowles was found inside Sandringham. A royal connection may open a conversation. It no longer opens the gate.